but it has been a huge week nationally and internationally for politics, and I guess dynamic movement in politics, or conflagrations of issues that have come together and made headlines. Here we have had a mood of the Boardroom survey, which puts Christopher Luxon ranked 15th in his own cabinet. That came after calls for the resignation of Mr Luxon and Nicola Willis. Wednesday, we had Treasury long-term economic forecasts that suggest we do need some pretty fundamental changes to fiscal policy if we aren't going to get hopelessly further into debt. And that issue very, very much alive. Internationally, we had Donald Trump giving the UN a dressing down, basically, as many countries foolishly recognise a non-existent Palestinian state. Wonder how Taiwan is right now. And, of course, Winston Peters playing the longest game of political tease you've ever seen. He will announce Saturday, our time, what our position on Palestine is. So it's been all go. And I have had a feeling that something has happened, particularly to the National Party, and maybe we're talking with Luxon's demise as when, not if. I wonder if Chris Trotter feels the same. Do you, Chris? It's been a big week.
Oh, yes, no doubt about that. I couldn't disagree, Sean.
Okay, and look, I rang a few people last night and said, is the right now out to roll? And I'm talking about outfits like the New Zealand edition of the Taxpayers Union, those sorts of people and groups. Do you think they're now after Luxon, they feel that he has to go, or the right loses the next election?
Yes, I think there's a great deal of fear that the right will lose the next election unless something quite dramatic happens, and soon, because you're a political observer as long in the tooth as I am, Sean, and you know that very soon the opinions of New Zealanders will begin to be locked in at about 12 months out from a general election. It's surprising how many people's views are formed and do not change over the ensuing 12 months. So if things are looking bad now, then you should do something now, because things are unlikely to improve in terms of people's voting intentions in the ensuing months. So I think that's why we're seeing this spike of concern right across the political right in New Zealand. It's not just that they're concerned about losing power, because, you know, being in power is what Toryism is all about, and why not? It's your system, you protect it. But what they're really frightened of is a Labour, Green, Te Pāti Māori government. That's what they're really frightened of. And to prevent that from happening, I think more and more people on the right are saying things are not going to improve under this Prime Minister, and I strongly suspect, especially after the mood of the Boardroom report, under this Finance Minister, which makes the problem for National even bigger, of course.
Yeah, well, that was interesting. That's only 150 CEOs who bothered taking part in the survey. But it seems to have had, and here's my theory, Chris, mainstream media hate National, and they hate New Zealand First, and they hate ACT. They're all lefties. We know that. So whenever they see any chance to destabilise any of those people, they leap at it. And the mood of the Boardroom is getting the sort of coverage that is completely in line with the biased nature of our news media. And I just wonder if it does signify such a lack of confidence or not. It's how it's being conveyed to us that is causing the crisis.
Well, what I'd say to that is the mood of the Boardroom is pretty much Fran O'Sullivan's baby. She presides over it. Fran O'Sullivan's been writing about business for the best part of 30 or 40 years. She is a fairly steady rock in a very turbulent world. And whenever the mood of the boardroom comes out, it gets a lot of coverage because these just aren't 150 people off the street. These are the people in command of the businesses that keep NZ Incorporated running. So their opinions are quite important. And to see the Prime Minister ranked so poorly, I think, is a true indication of the concern among business leaders about the way this government is being led. So I don't think it's a beat up. Sure, there will be journalists out there in the mainstream media who grab this with both hands, no doubt about that. But mood of the boardroom is always a newsmaker, and it's not the product of some wild-eyed lefty. Let's put it that way.
Now, look, the other thing I was thinking is that old adage, and I think it's a true one: oppositions don't win elections, governments lose them. And I was going to say, well, what does Labour or the Maori Party or the Greens offer in response to this? Well, they don't really have to offer anything, do they? They can just sit there and let National stuff it up, let old face on a thumb drop the ball.
Well, that's right. I think it was the Chinese military philosopher Sun Tzu who said, never ever interrupt your enemy when he is making a mistake.
I actually think it was Napoleon Bonaparte, but that's okay.
Well, it may well have been. It was certainly one of those people who knew of what they spoke, but whoever said it, it's a very sensible rule of thumb. And Chris Hipkins needs no further instruction, I think, in this regard. What I think, though, he needs to be concerned about is the problem that Barbara Edmonds faced when she was at the launch of Mood of the Boardroom. I mean, I thought she acquitted herself pretty well, just reading reports and reading what she said. But her big problem, of course, was when people stood up and said, well, what's Labour going to do? You've launched a fairly substantive critique of the government's policy, but what's your policy? And this is Labour's problem. Unless it's got something fairly coherent to offer, its association with the Greens and Te Pāti Māori will become an ever-increasing burden for the party as the election grows nearer. Because without an inspiring manifesto, all people will be looking at are its friends. And, their eyebrows will go up and up and up as as the intentions of their friends and the silence of Labour itself, become more and more concerning. So Labour needs to decide what it's planning to do, and it needs to begin to roll that out fairly soon, I would say, or National will save itself on the pure fear of the alternative.
Yeah. And look, the other thing is, because we're of an age, Chris, I guess we still have a tendency deep in our hearts to think in a binary sense about government. I suppose Winston Peters, most certainly, an actor sitting there going, well, we don't care if National kind of implodes on the very average altar of Chris Luxon. People can come and vote for us if they don't want Labour. And the whole nature of the right or the centre-right might change.